Here, time for another episode of No Vacancy Live, and today we're going to be having quite the experience, I think.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hello, fellow citizens of the world. I am Glenn Hausman. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of No Vacancy Live. I know we're getting into the holiday season now, and boy, oh boy, is that exciting. Next week, we're going to be on vacation because look at me. I'm tired. I'm old. I need a little bit of a break before we get going in the new year. But before we do that, we've got some great shows planned for you this week. And I'm very excited. But before we get into that, I want to say, hey, thank you so much to Radisson and Choice Hotels for supporting our show this year. And we'd love it if you could support them as well. Now that Choice Hotels International owns in the United States and North America, brands like Radisson Blue, Radisson Red, Country Inns and Suites, and it's going to be powered by that Choice Hotel system. Boy, now is the best time than ever to get involved and make your investment in owning a franchise property with the good folks over at Choice Hotels. You can check them out at choicehotelsdevelopment.com. That's choicehotelsdevelopment.com. They've also got an amazing diversity program set to get folks that have never had opportunities before to get into hotel ownership into their own property. So add /diversity at the end of choicehotelsdevelopment.com and learn more. All right. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics. And to do that, we've got our guest, Mr. Joe Pine. He's an author, commentator, and all of that kind of stuff. And he's written books on one of my favorite topics, literally called The Experience Economy, which recently had an update, the new introduction. Joe, so great to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, it's a pleasure, Glenn, to be with you.
It's great to see you. So as we were talking off air, I'm going to pretend now like we didn't just say this. I've been a big fan of the experience economy for a very, very long time. I think it's really the key to creating amazing hospitality. But in order to do that, we really have to understand what those rules are. It's not just good enough to know there's experiences, right? So why is the experience economy different today than when guys like me started identifying it in 2008, 2009 kind of a range?
Well, you know, the originally identify. I always say I didn't invent. I just somebody accused me.
Right, identify. Correct.
No, I
It's
discovered.
like identifying. It's like inventing electricity.
Right, exactly. You know, no, nobody invented electricity.
Yeah.
So I originally identified it, over 25 years ago.
Wow.
And when we first started talking about it in the 1990s, it was the nascent experience economy, the emerging, the forthcoming experience economy. And now it's here. And it's about 2010, 2011, maybe, where you could say, yeah, everybody recognizes it. When I first started talking about it, I had to argue with people that this was going on. And now I just say we're an experience economy and everybody gets it. And so I think that's the main difference. It's in the air that we breathe. People know that that's the case. The pandemic proved it in in two senses. One is, even though we couldn't go out, we would not give up our experiences, right? And all these digital experiences, starting with video streaming, but also with games and escape rooms, et cetera, that moved online, all these experiences. And then as soon as things opened up, guess what? They're filled to capacity, because people are social beings. They want to be around other people and they crave experiences.
So the thing about experiences, Joe, is it means something different to everybody, right? And I think the problem is we're using it now as a catch-all phrase to mean basically everything. And when something means basically everything, it loses its intended meaning. So maybe we could roll it back to essentially the truism of what is that experience economy and why.
Yeah, and it's definitely true of experiences because it's such an expansive word. I mean, there is this sense in which we are experiencing every second that we're awake, right? If we're conscious, we're experiencing. But what we talk about when we talk about the experience economy is that experiences as a distinct economic offering, right?
Right. I was saying, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I said, speak for yourself. I'm just kind of stumbling through life over there. But please, now that I've ruined your flow, try again.
Okay, so it's doubly difficult when we use the term experiences because it is such an expansive word, right? There's a sense in which we're experiencing whenever we're awake, when we're conscious. But what I'm talking about is experiences as a distinct economic offering, right? As distinct from services as services are from goods. It's basically when you use goods as props and services as a stage to engage each and every individual in an inherently personal way, and thereby create a memory, which is the hallmark of the experience. So what's happening is that we're buying experiences from others. We used to be responsible for all of our own experiences. Now we gladly pay somebody else for those experiences because they can do it better than we can. They can be more engaging than we can. They can create better memories than we can. They can make us happier than we can ourselves. So it's really what businesses can do today to engage their audiences, engage their customers in a way that creates economic value.
So one of the things that I see when it comes to the experience economy is everybody thinks they understand it, and then they go ahead and they create a lot of the same things, and then in my opinion, it starts to become fungible, right? So you're not really getting this particular experience that's unique. Is that a phenomenon that you're seeing across multiple sectors?
Yeah. I mean, across all sectors, really. And I mean, fungible, another word for that is undifferentiated. Another word for that is commoditized, right? And when everything is the same. And particularly that's the case because, thanks to the shift in the experience economy, became the rise of so-called customer experience, right? CX. And when people do CX, they think they're doing experiences, and they're not. Right, CX really is defined as making our interactions with our customers nice and easy and convenient. And those are all well and good, but they're service characteristics. They're not experience characteristics, right? Nice is nice, but rarely does it rise to the level of memorability. And if you don't engage somebody and create that memory, then you haven't staged a true distinctive experience. Easy often means that we routinize everything for our employees to make it easy to deliver a transaction. But that gets in the way of being personal. And experiences, again, are inherently personal. They actually happen inside of us as a reaction to the events that are engaged in front of us. You need to reach inside them, engage them, and again, create that memory. And finally, convenience is the antithesis of what an experience is. Convenience means let's get in and out as quickly as possible, spend as little time with company as possible. When with experiences, what people value is the time that they spend. They're asking you to stage this time for them. Where services and basic summary are time well saved, experiences are time well spent.
Yeah, for sure. So when I see hotels, a lot of hotels only can offer the same experience. Hey, here he is, Mr. Anthony Melchiori. Welcome, Anthony. We're glad you were able to join. How are you today? Unmute yourself.
I said, I'm sorry you're late.
I really apologize. We were so late that we actually started 7 minutes ago. But Anthony, it's great to see you. So what we're doing today is we're talking about the experience economy, and Joe Pine here has written books on it and has written a lot of articles all behind this topic. And now that we understand what that experience economy is, just getting to the fact that a lot of hotels have the same sorts of stuff. They have the same types of pillows, the same types of bed. They have the same types of beer in the lobby, the same. And that's how we kind of have everything's different, but everything's the same, and creates that fungibleness that we were just talking about. So Joe, how do hotels really look into creating something that's unique to those individuals that are out there that'll make them resonate and spend that money to be with them?
There's many different ways. And of course, you can think about the architecture. You can think about the designing the place of the hotels, both the lobbies and the common areas, as well as the individual rooms, and how to make them distinctive, as you said, to not be fungible, to not be the same. And with everything moving to using our apps to be able to check in and check out, and that we're also reducing the amount of human interaction. And that will tend to commoditize companies as well. And that's where when you do have human interaction is where you really need to shine, right? You need to train your people to be able to really engage people when you're talking with them live individually, and even if that's over the phone, not just personally, physically. And that means you need to really understand one of the core principles of the experience economy is that when you stage experiences, work is theater. And I don't mean that as a metaphor. I don't mean work as theater. I literally mean that when workers are in front of guests, they are on stage and they need to engage that audience, right? And that requires directing your workers to act, giving them roles to play, help them characterize those roles, and then perform them on your business stage. And that's probably the number one thing that companies can do. And the great thing about it is it doesn't require any new capital equipment. It doesn't require redesigning everything. It's a matter of training and coaching them to be on stage.
Anthony, I want to get you in here, but I do want to make one quick comment. I just think about Disney and how they call them cast members. That goes right to the heart of the philosophy you're talking about. Anthony, take it away.
But the Disney we grew up in and the Disney that's going on today, Disney's still great, but it's different. And I know a lot of young ladies specifically that have gone into Disney, went through their training program, and then got burnt out and was like, you know what, I like it, but it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hours, and it's different than it was back in the day. They're kind of more about, there's a lot to do with not as many cast members. But getting back to your point, it absolutely, I agree with everything you said. When you're in the trenches every single day, and you have people calling in sick, and you have people leaving, and you have gas not checking out, and you have pipes busting, and you have COVID, and you have all these things that you're dealing with, the first thing that goes is interviewing properly. Forget about training. I don't want to talk about training. Okay, they don't interview properly. You know, my favorite thing to say is, you know, when you talk to a general manager, if he says to you, well, and you ask him, how many of the employees in your hotel do you interview? And if he says or she says, I don't have any time to interview line employees, I say, how often do you spend in human resources finding line employees? Oh, that's where I spend most of my day. Conversation's over. So we really have to focus on hiring correctly, understanding the ship is going to go up and down depending on the tide, right? But the ship has still got to be the ship, and the ship has still got to function appropriately. But you're going to have high tide and low tide, and that can affect your training, and that can affect the way you interview people, and that can affect your standards. And right now, the standards in our industry before COVID were way below European standards. Now, when I say European standard, I mean the hotel schools. Now, there are no standards. I'll give you an example. I just rented a car. My car's in the shop, so I had to rent a car. I was there early this morning. The gentleman gives me the car, and it looked a little older. And I said, how old is that car? He goes, it's 2 years old. I go, how many miles are on that car? He goes, 60,000 miles. Okay. When was the last time you rented a car with 60,000 miles from one of the high-end reputable customers? Right. So I was just like, okay, no, thank you. Do you have something a little bit newer and a little bit less miles? And he found something for me. He was lovely. He was a wonderful man. But then I asked him about this gentleman that picked me up from the mechanic, and I said he was a nice guy. And then I was like, how do you find people to detail the cars and do the pickup? And he said to me, and I won't tell you the brand because I love the brand. He says, we now take people with not stellar driving records. Yeah. We have standards that you have to have a really good driving record. Now, we don't. Basically, you can be a point from getting your license suspended, and we're going to hire you. Right. So people are dealing with real issues. However, I will tell you, the training or the gentleman that spoke to me and the gentleman that picked me up that may or may not have a good driving record were wonderful. How do you do both? How do you maintain that ship, but you have to be ready to go up and down? And this company did it because they still had great service.
Good question.
It is an issue everywhere, being able to get the right people, for your business. And one of the things about standards is one of the core distinctions between services and experiences, particularly regarding theater, is what versus how. Right? That what are the service activities, the functional things you have to do. Right? In a hotel, you have to check people in, you have to place the amenities in the bathroom, you have to make the beds and clean the floors, and so on and so forth. But how you do that is what can turn any mundane interaction into an engaging encounter, right?
I have some tricks up my sleeve that I use, but how do you help people that are overwhelmed, short-staffed, and losing their edge? What do you tell those people?
Well, the hopefully what you've done before you get to that point is what I encourage hospitality companies in particular, as well as any franchise companies at all, is to differentiate the what from the how in your standards, right? Here's the what standards. Now here's the how standards. Here's what we need to do. Now here's how we go about doing it. And then that becomes part of the the values, part of the DNA of the company to be able to do that. And then you do need to train them. We have our own frontline video training offering called OnStage that we use with clients, and anybody can take advantage of it. And it allows like managers to sit down and have people do it individually, and then come back together and say, okay, well, what could we do differently? How do we better engage people? And it starts with how you do what you do.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, I agree with you 100%, and that makes perfect sense. One of the things I think companies really have to start doing is they have to forget about their customer, that the customer exists. They have to forget, because early in my career, I learned that a long time ago. You don't have a customer. Your employee has a customer. So how do you treat your employee real time, real world, real money like the customer? And I used to say it all the time when people say the customer's always right, and we have to take care of the owner and then it's the employee. I said, no, the customer's wrong a lot. The employee's the king and queen, and the owner will only listen if he's making money. So let's keep the customer out of it. Let's not think about the customer. Let's think about the employee. And of course, our standards for the customer and our goals for the customer, if we can make our goals and standards for the employee higher than the customer, you will never have to worry about the customer.
Yep. It speaks to the fact that if you want a great experience for your customers, you need to create great experiences for your employees, right? You need to treat them, like you said, at least as high, if not higher. One of the other
priority. I don't mean to interrupt you, but they have to be the number one priority. Your employee has to be a higher priority than your customer. And people, when I say that, literally want to stab me in the head.
Yeah.
And for many other reasons too.
Right. There was a famous book, like I would guess 25 years ago, from the big travel agent in Philadelphia. I can't think of their names, Rosenthal or Rosen something. But the title was "Customers Come Second." Right. It is employees that come first, and how you treat your employees to be able to get them there. One of the things I do with clients also is to help create a cohesive experience. Is you need a theme. Right. And the theme, it doesn't have to be like fantasy, like Disney. It doesn't have to be in your face like a theme restaurant. It's simply the organizing principle for the experience. It's how you decide what's in the experience and what's out. And everybody having a different theme can get rid of that fungibility that you're talking about, Glenn. My favorite example being Chip Conley's Joie de Vivre Hospitality in San Francisco, where every hotel was themed after a different magazine. Right. And if you love that magazine, they captured the essence of it in the hotel, you'll naturally love that hotel. But that theme can also then apply to the employee to help them live that out, that you need to do it with the employees, again, so in order they have the wherewithal to do it for your guests.
Right. So what you're saying is when you do that like Chip Conley thing, and for those of you who don't know, that got sold off to Hyatt, and Chip's gone on to do a lot of other great stuff since, including writing books and now speaking about learning from the younger generation, which is very fascinating. But what I think is his unique approach was coming at it from that psychographic point of view and really understanding what that mindset is of the customer that's going to be walking through your door. And then if you could build, I would think, the experience around that mindset, you'll probably be able to break through. Because, Joe, the biggest crisis I'm seeing right now in hotels is everyone is doing such a great job, relatively speaking, that most experiences I have in hotels are great, but at the end of the day, forgettable, because I stay in so many hotels and they're not really differentiating themselves.
Right. And that differentiation is key, right? Because what I always rail against is commodization. When you're the same as everybody, you sort of shift down this progression of economic value. And so you need to differentiate yourself. And theming is a great way to do it. Theater is a great way to do it. Another thing to do is to get personal with your customers, to know them as individuals, right? How I originally discovered all of this is from my book, Mass Customization, about efficiently serving customers uniquely, where you can give everybody exactly what they want, but doing it at a price they're willing to pay. And I discovered that customization automatically turns goods into services and then services into experiences. So the more you customize the goods and services in there, then the better you can create that experience for individuals. I'm such a big fan of Carnival Corporation's Ocean Medallion. right? They have an IoT device that they give to every guest on Princess Cruises right now, and eventually on all.
I believe that was partially created with the help of John Paget, who's now gone on to be a CEO of another cruise company.
Actually, he's CEO of Princess, right? So yeah,
That's
John
right,
Paget, who I first met when I worked with Walt Disney World back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, he worked at Disney, then went into cruises.
Right.
He had something to do with the Magic Band development as well.
Exactly.
Right?
He helped create the Magic Band, which he tells me was influenced by workshops I did with him, where I emphasize this exact fact.
Cool.
Disney World is a mass experiences. You need to get down to the individual. He couldn't get everything he'd done with the Magic Band at Disney, so he found this greenfield with Carnival. And now it's amazing where every employee can identify who you are because they have a tablet. You get within range, up pops your name and your picture, right? So they know who
that's
you
amazing.
are. Yeah, and then they design this. I call it a mass customized itinerary, where they send you personal experience invitations about what you would like to do. Right, learning from how much time you spend and how you rate things in other ways. What are the experiences that are going to tend to be the best for you? They even can learn things like when you're on the pool deck with your kids, your favorite drink is an iced tea with no lemon. When you're in the bar with your buddies, it's a mojito. And when you're in the restaurant with your spouse, it's a glass of Shiraz, right? Just tremendous customization capabilities that elevates the entire experience. And John says that it really helps allow the employees to do what they do best, which is serve the guests. Right, because they get rid of all this other stuff that they would normally have to do, and give them the information it takes to be able to do that.
Right.
I can't agree with you more. If you say to a waiter or a hostess, Mr. Melchior standing in front of you, and he likes the Johnny Walker Black on the Rocks, my mind will fall out of the back of my head, and I will be so excited because the customization in a lot of brands is, oh, you're a Diamond member, you're this member, you're that member. Here's a cookie, here's a this, here's a that. That's not customization. That's just, that's everybody is
also
going
forgettable.
Right.
Very forgettable. And it's like, again, the people at the gate at Delta say, thank you for being a Diamond member. There's a way to say it, right? Maybe one or two people have ever said it to me where I actually felt special.
Everybody to me, thanks for being platinum.
Oh, you gotta get diamond. It's the best.
Yeah. So that's the kind of customization that is needed, because you need to really tell an employee what to do, and they can act, especially people in hospitality. People in hospitality typically are theater people. They're usually performers in some way or another. I'm not a performer, but like sitting behind a desk, and I'm not really
I just play one on TV.
So I need to really react to people. If I have that information, it gives me a tool. Like when I was at Nickelodeon, our name tags, we changed the name tags to the people's favorite, the employee's favorite character. Not do what we're doing with Disney. With Disney was like, where you from? Well, that's what, when I took over, that's what they were doing. I was like, no, that's bull crap, because everybody else is doing it. What's their favorite characters? Well, that's going to be expensive. Well, you know what? For a couple of dollars, we have $250 million for the owners. We can do it. And then we had like 10 different characters. They chose their favorite character. And that was the way to get the employee who may not be really good at socializing, to say, oh, my favorite is so-and-so. What's your favorite? So giving employees a starting point, to me, is my number one priority. Anytime I'm running a hotel, I want to give them a starting point. So I love that technology.
Right. And it comes back to how dependent it is on the employees and those interactions they have. So, for example, one of the things Delta is starting to do is sometimes as a Diamond medallion, I'm still actually in the back. Sometimes because I gave my wife the upgrade instead of me, and I'm like, or I'll get an exit row seat.
I'm never allowed to fly first class if I get an upgrade and she's around.
Right. And some flight attendants, not all of them, will recognize, hey, this is the same Diamond no matter where they're sitting, right? They don't have to be up front or in economy. They're still a Diamond, and they'll come back and say, hey, what can I get you from the bar, right? Because they recognize, even if I'm in coach, I'm still that Diamond.
See, that's never happened to me. That's never happened to me. And that I say to myself, I'm still a Diamond member. I'm still on the plane more than the pilot. Why, if I'm in coach, why are you treating me like I can't even get a bottle of water?
Right. Right. But because it's still employee dependent, it's the good ones that recognize that will do that. Delta hasn't made that a house standard, right? What we do is give them, The what is, offering a drink. The how is, offering a drink based on your status and being able to have access to whatever we've got up front. Not just.
I heard they're increasing the standard for your status. So I heard that it's more points to do things, and it's all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's people serving people. It's getting things right. Management's getting things done through people, and getting the right heart and the right mind in the right position is still what it comes down to. We can talk about, this is how you do it. This is why you do it. We can talk all about that. But too many times we're not really, especially now, not putting the right heart and mind in the right position. And that, to me, is something we got to solve. So, Joe Pine, how do we solve it?
Well, let me go back. Let me go back to theming and talk about what theming is being intentional, right? It's being intentional about everything that you design, everything that you do. When I talk about theater, there's also techniques for being intentional, like acting as if is a way of doing it. And then there's theming, being intentional and how you design the drama of what you're doing. And then there's also the intentionality of your meaningful purpose, right? And why you exist in the world. And this is where the heart really can come into it. There's many companies I've worked with where when we come up with a theme for the experience, well, the entire company is the experience. This is most notable in healthcare. I've done a lot of work with hospitals, for example. And the theme becomes a meaningful purpose. And it allows everybody to ascend to this proposition that this is what we're about. One of my favorite examples, I worked with Heartland Health in St. Joseph, Missouri. And the theme we came up with was live life well, right? I love this. Just 3 simple things. Live life well. They want their patients to live life well, not just treat them as a number when they come into the hospital. They want their family members to live life well. They want the community to live life well. St. Joseph's is not the highest socioeconomic community you have out there. And of course, they want the employees to live life well, so out of that abundance, they can then treat their patients and help them live life well. So it's really become this purpose. Their new doctors' offices are designed completely differently to be warm and welcoming, not cold and impersonal. And they recognize that it's really about helping people achieve their goals and their aspirations, through the healthcare industry, not just treat a symptom, but understand this whole person and help them again to live life well before, during, and after any episodes they might have with the healthcare system.
It's interesting you should say that, because I'm seeing a lot of people who are leaving the traditional hotel business and moving into hospitals, healthcare, senior living, and those sorts of things, because those industries recognize that they need to create that experience for their customers, and they want to be able to deliver great products as well.
Do you remember Hackensack Hospital years ago started really doing a lot of commercials about service and standard? Okay, well, they're the first person to hire someone that I knew out of the hotel business. His name's Alan Lee. He was a front office. He was a director of housekeeping eventually. He was the guy I told you about that was a bellman, and he didn't want to take the job, and I convinced him. Anyway, he came on to be director of housekeeping, and then he got promoted. He called me up and he goes, "Hey, the hospital's calling me. What do you think?" This is after I left. And I said, "Take the job." He was going to be assistant manager in charge of services and bring in the hospitality from hotels to Hackensack University. That was one of the first hospitals that did it. They got to the top in standards and service. Now he's the chief operating officer of Johnson something Hospital in New Jersey. Chief operating officer. He was a bellman because I swear to God. And he's a first class guy, administrator in hospitals now, because he understood. The reason I liked him, and he was a good friend of mine, I promoted him, was because he understood, forget about the business. He understood the heart and he had a mind for business. And now a gentleman who starts a bellman is CEO of a hospital, because people in the hospital, it's more important to take care of them holistically because of what they're going through.
Right. Chip Conley, after he sold Joie de Vivre Hospitality, before he started the Modern Elder Academy, Airbnb hired him as the chief hospitality officer. Right. Because it's
kind of where he got the whole idea of the Modern Elder stuff, by learning.
Exactly. Helping Airbnb hosts be more hospitable is key. It also gets in with, one of the reasons I've worked so much with healthcare is that research shows that the better the patient experience, the better the outcome. And that's really what healthcare is about. It's about the outcome. It's about going from sick to well, and all the various ways that one can do that. And what I call that actually is a transformation. And I want to relate this back to hospitality, which is that in this progression of economic value from commodities, goods, services, experiences, there's actually one more offering, and that's a transformation. When you use experiences as the raw material to guide people to change, to help them achieve their aspirations, and fundamentally healthcare business, that's what it's all about. Fitness centers, that's what they're all about. Coaching of all stripes, right? Many businesses are in the transformation business. My colleagues and I wrote an article in the Harvard Business Review this past January called The New You Business, right? That it is about helping people become a new you. Well, one of the huge things that's going on is the shift into transformational travel, right? That hospitality companies need to understand. I actually advise the Transformational Travel Council that's bringing together a lot of these and recognize that when we travel is when we're most open to change, right? And so there are opportunities to help people not just have a great experience when they travel, but to actually transform, right? Even if it's to become a well-rested road warrior, right? For you, Anthony, that's on the road all the time. Is how does your
Glenn actually is on the road more than I am.
I just stay in places longer so I don't get as many flight miles. It's very depressing, Joe. Very depressing.
That's right. And you're in a place right now, right there in
I am. I've been traveling all fall. It's been absolutely tremendous. But I'll tell you after. I don't feel like promoting.
He doesn't want to promote him, right?
Yeah.
But think about how hospitality companies can really understand who you are, what you aspire to become. And obviously a lot of spas and wellness things do that, but there's a lot of opportunity to really think through this and use the fact that your guests are traveling to you, that your guests are out of their normal routines, that your guests are open to new possibilities, and use that to provide even more value from the experiences at the transformation level about helping them become who they want to become.
And do you see that that's where this maybe this wellness tourism is starting to take place? And also over the last number of years, people going to places and then trying to engage with local communities, change their mindset, that sort of thing?
Right, exactly. Right, it can be a change of mindset. It can be helping transform the local community. And what I really think today, for the most part, their hospitality companies are focused just on the week that you're there, right? Or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and not recognizing, well, this is part of can be part of something more global, and get them to come back to you, even if it's in different places, so that you can then help engender that transformation that they're looking for. Learn, like Carnival does, from the past interactions and become even better on the next interactions for you individually.
Well, we could talk for an hour on why the hotel companies haven't been able to create actionable insights from all the data we've been giving them for decades over there. Because it's really surprising that if I have achieved diamond status at one of the hotel brands that are out there, but other than what Anthony said with maybe the waters and something, they're not doing anything to create an experience for me that goes beyond that interaction at the front desk. I love what you're saying about making it more global in the sense that they should understand who I am and then give me opportunities all over the globe, right?
Well, I think, from my perspective, service is punitive in the brands. If you don't achieve this type of level, this is what happens to you people. And I think, you have 99.9% right after COVID, you have 0 employees, or this happens to you. You get this taken away, you get this, and this, instead of it being inclusive and it being helping each other. And some brands do a good job of that, but to me, it should be rewarded differently.
All right, sorry, I was muted there. All right, so how does transformational tourism kind of relate to a question that we got ahead of the show on experiential tourism, and how can hoteliers really maximize that? Because I still find a disconnect that they're not rooted enough within their communities to have a understanding of why people might really be going to those towns and creating a more cohesive experience between all those elements.
Right, and that's a great word to use, Glenn, which is why. As I talked about how and what, well, you need to also understand the why. Why are they visiting? Why are they here at this time? And how you fit that into the aspirations that they have, so that you can do things differently as a result of that. So it goes beyond the what and the how to why they visit, to that raison d'etre, why they're there. and recognize that that can then become aligned with who you are as a brand and what you can offer your guests.
Interesting. So, yeah, I think that's really phenomenal. So, what do you think is the next big thing in tourism out there, and how do you think we could leverage this as an industry to our opportunities?
Well, if we hadn't just had the discussion, I would say the next big thing is transformational tourism, right? And I think it is a huge opportunity, and it gets back to your use of the word fungible earlier. That if you're undifferentiated, well, then go to the next level. I always say you got three choices. You innovate in what you're doing today to become differentiated, and you customize because then you're automatically differentiated because you're working with each individual customer, as we talked about with Carnival. Or three, you go to the next level. You go beyond services to experiences. You go beyond experiences to transformations. And I think and what we just alluded to is a great way of thinking about that is recognize it's never a one period model. It's never just about this visit. It's how do I connect visits together. So one of the things I'll say that is coming that the companies ought to look at, what Carnival has done, Airbnb and others, come up with experience platforms, right? Experience platforms or marketplaces where you can buy experiences. I think hotels need to get in that business as well. Airbnb.
I think some of them are like I can get access to XYZ concert and meet said celebrity and that kind of stuff, or the US.
But again, they're point examples. What you need to do is you need to create this mass customized itinerary. You need to truly understand what to offer me versus what to offer everybody else. I've been an American Express member since 1980. I've yet for them to ever offer anything that's like down my sweet spot that, yes, that's what I want. It's like, what do you every transaction I have, you get, exactly where I am, exactly what I'm doing. And you can't use that information over the past 40 years to figure out, what I might want.
You know what? I never thought of that. I've been a platinum American Express holder for 20 years. Yep. And there was a charge on my credit card that I didn't recognize at all. And it was pretty expensive. So I called whatever and they took it off. And they said, thank you for being a member. And it's 20 years, maybe more. I think, it was more, 22 years, she said. Thank you for being a member for 22 years. And I said, you're welcome. And I was so proud of myself. Wow, I've been a member for 22 years, platinum. And then until you just said that, but they've never done anything for me.
Anything. Right?
Listen,
like one company I'd really like to work with and straighten out.
Joe, I've never played golf as an adult in my life, and I still get offers for golf trips. I've never, the hundreds and hundreds of nights I've stayed with each brand, they should absolutely know that. And maybe I'd rather be drinking beer.
Right. So you need an operational experience platform like that to be able to connect all these experiences. And again, not a one period model. Learn what did I love to do this time and what didn't I like, and use that next time to be able to recommend other experiences, including transformative ones.
Is there a technology out there that does it the best? Is there one technology that fits all?
Well, no, I don't think there's one technology that fits all, but Carnival used the Ocean Medallion for the simple reason that you don't always want your phone with you on a cruise, right? Because you're in the pool and so forth.
I wish Disney would realize that.
Right, and they connect three different ways, so they never lose contact and that sort of thing. But for most companies, just having an app that where you recognize them as individuals, where you can customize to them, an app where you can then connect these experiences together, again, coming up with an itinerary that you can, of course, change, where you can go deep and you look overall on it, I think are key things that companies need to do to create an experience platform that allows them to engage guests on an individual level, understand who they are, understand what they want, understand why they want it, and then, again, have this long-lasting relationship, not just point experiences.
But there hasn't been... I have yet to find a company that makes all their employees, to me, the number one employee that everybody should aspire to be is a 5-star concierge. Mm-hmm. The mindset of a 5-star concierge is anticipation. And if we have the right technology at the right time in the right place for the right person, you can train that person how to think like a concierge. So as we're getting that technology in, we then have to treat people like a concierge. And I always said my concierge are independent contractors. Even though they get a paycheck and even though they have a direct somebody, they report into somebody, they're the most entrepreneurial people in the building because I don't want to know. Don't ask me if the special chocolate that's in Indiana that the guest wants the time they come in. Don't ask my permission. Just get it done. Don't come and ask me, well, do we charge that? Just come on. You're kidding me? Figure it out. Just get it done. And every employee should have the technology to be able to meet that expectation. Right now, there's not enough technology and enough standard to have everybody at that level because it really, unless you're trained to be a 5-star concierge, unless you think like I do or people that are at the 5-star concierge mind, unless you have that technology, you're not going to figure it out on your own. So when that hits, we'll have something special.
You remind me of a workshop I did many, many moons ago with a major airline. I won't name which one, but it's based in Chicago, where I talked about Ritz-Carlton and how wonderfully they serve customers, starting from their theme of ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen, and all that they do to remember your preferences through their notepads and their guest preference system. And one of the vice presidents there says, well, if you put Ritz-Carlton employees behind our gate agents, they'd be lousy too. And I says, yeah, what does that tell you? It's your systems. It's your system. You need to give people the right technology and the right systems, and then your people can be wonderful like Ritz-Carlton's are.
And I agree with that. And Glenn's heard this, and people who have heard me speak have heard this. It's the 5-star baby syndrome. You're born a 5-star baby, but you only allow yourself to go to mediocrity, right? So it's me. You work at JCPenney or you work at 7-Eleven, like everybody else is not doing it right. So I don't care about doing it right. It's a personal choice too. You can only do certain amount of technology and a certain amount of training. It's about hiring the right people and having less people with better technology than more people with shitty technology.
Yep. All right, Joe, I got one last question I'd like to ask you. Outside travel, tourism, and hospitality, what's either one sector or one company that really gets it all right, and why?
Wow. So no company gets it all right in my mind.
So who's doing a good job?
Right. I would put Carnival right up there with the best of them because they focus on experiences and customization. They don't yet have any aspects of transformation.
Well, I would argue something like Amazon does it right because they anticipate what I need and they deliver things really quickly, and they've ingrained themselves to make me want to go on the website instead of necessarily going to other.
Yeah, and to your point, when was the last time you spoke to a customer representative at Amazon?
Never, because I haven't needed to, because the experiences worked well because of strong technology that started out with machine-based learning, which is a lot of what we're talking about here.
I chatted with one a couple of weeks ago.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Andy, you got anything else?
I got in this loop where this is the second time my wife has ordered this raspberry vinaigrette, and they deliver like Crystal Light drink packets. I mean, the same thing twice. One lemon, one lime. I mean, yeah, exactly. So it's like they're in the wrong bin somewhere. I don't know. And I got to say, I want to return this, and it says, why? Because it's delivered the wrong item. And then I go and it says you can't return that. And I say, okay, I don't understand why. And last time they said keep it, but they said you can't return it. And then they said if this other screen where it's like, okay, do this if you want to help on that, and I do that, and it comes back to the same screen of do you want to return this? But then I can't return it. I mean, it's just got the third time loop. I said, all right, I got to find somebody, and I thought about calling them, but there was a chat there. And it started with a chat bot, but then I got to an actual person who actually understood the problem and says, okay, this is what we'll do.
Wow. Did you solve the problem eventually?
Yeah. And it didn't take that long, right? Once you got to an actual person. But Amazon still is primarily at the service level, not at experiences of transformation. They do have Amazon Explore, sort of like Airbnb's experiences. They're increasingly getting into video selling in that, which can create an experience. You have a live salesperson that's talking to you about products like on QVC and so forth.
But they did train a generation of us, or several generations, to be last minute shoppers, meaning almost everything I buy, and I need it within 24 to 48 hours, or I want it within 24. So they've changed my behavior. Whereas before, I would say, okay, Christmas is coming, and in October, I need to start worrying about presents. Now I worry about presents last night.
Yeah, Joe, go on.
I was in Scottsdale last month with my wife, and like the day after we get back, or a couple of days after we get back, I had a birthday party to go to, and I wanted to get a gift for my good friend, and I get on Amazon, and it said, okay, order this, and it says, well, delivery will come like 5 days before we get back. Well, I don't want it then, right? And so I'm going on every day to see when it's going to deliver, because sometimes it changes the exact date of when you get delivery, until I get it to deliver the day we come back. I'm like, why don't you just give me a box that says select your delivery date beginning with this num? It's like when I go cancel my Wall Street Journal subscription for a few weeks, it tells me, here, when do you want to return it? Boom, right? Amazon doesn't do that. And it's just like crying out to do that, because it would lower their costs as well. They don't have to be as quick about it, and they can take the slow boat and so forth.
I had to cancel something the other day, and finally I got somebody on the phone, and I was like, listen, I don't use this. I haven't used it since there was a client I needed it for. I said, I don't use it anymore. I'm being charged for it. And she said, well, go through here, go through here, go through here, go through here, stand on one hand, change a light bulb, run around the block, and then we'll cancel it. And I was like, oh, that was easy. They don't make it easy for you to cancel stuff. But really, we have to, and everything you're saying, and you're always talking about the experiences, and I understand what you're saying, and you're always bringing it back to the employee, and I can't agree with you more. We can put all these. How many people put standards together? I have a standard book right here that'll choke a horse that I put together. That's a couple hundred pages. That we have standards, we have policies, we have we have everything. We have POSs. Go online and train or whatever, but we forget there's a human heart pumping blood through that person's body, and that's what's forgotten. And when we can bring technology and that human together to make it easy. Because right now, people are just looking at screens and saying, oh, tell them thank you for being a Diamond member. Thank you. But again, American Express, one of the greatest companies on earth that makes a lot of money, has never once said to you and me, oh, I think you would like whatever. Like, I'm a Lululemon person. They could easily send me Lululemon stuff, and I buy Lululemon all the time. They never send me anything.
Right.
Now watch. You know, it's going to send me. I'm going to have.
Well, I think what we've learned today is, as wonderful and successful a lot of companies have been, there's always lots of opportunity. And in the hospitality industry, it's such a complex business. We don't need to oversimplify it, because there are so many different moving parts in order to create cohesive experiences, particularly on this mass customization level that we've been talking about. Joe, yeah, Anthony, go.
I was just going to say, and why are soft brands in our industry really becoming something that's important, and that you see a lot of soft brands coming out? Because we've standardized so many of these hotels, and we've done a good job, but there's no there. So now they're saying, okay, now you have a soft brand, so the owners and the investors will develop it, and then we'll come in and we'll run the system. But then what they're doing is, and I've had several experiences, and I won't say one big 5-star brand, they went into this kind of soft branding category, and they've changed behavior. So it's really, I think all the soft brands now are eventually going to become, customized. I don't know. It just sometimes I lose faith, but then I realize there's people out there like you, Joe, fighting the fight.
I try.
And since we love our friends over at Choice, be sure to check out the Ascend collection. They're awesome soft brand, which actually the first one in the hospitality industry, although other companies tried to.
And I was very impressed with the District. They built the District in New York, and that was one of the first soft brands, and they did an amazing job.
Yep. Joe, how can we learn more about you? How can we find your awesome books?
Well, you can go to www.strategichorizons.com. Strategic Horizons with an S. That's our primary site. You can get the books, learn about our are speaking, our Experience County Expert Certification Program, our on-stage frontline video training offering, as well as get access to a blog there that we call Thoughts, as well as a lot of articles that we've written, some hospitality specific.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Have a great have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, that was really cool.
And Joe, I want an autographed copy. I want to read it.
Yeah, hang out backstage for a second while we wrap up, if you don't mind. Anthony, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Chopwall Lodge. That should be a really good show this week.
Yeah. Let's in the green room. Let's talk. I want to talk about.
For sure. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, download the audio podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Do you know where you get your shows? Well, we are there too. He's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn. All right, everybody. Remember, you got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See y'all later.